Hey everyone, welcome back. We're doing something a little different today, diving into this competitive analysis of Samscloud.
Yeah, they're pitching themselves as the next big thing in school safety software.
Right, and they give us this whole document, which is basically like their sales pitch in a nutshell, breaking down how they stack up against the competition.
Yeah, it's kind of like they handed us the playbook and said, all right, tell us what you think.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
we're going to do just that. We'll unpack Samscloud's big selling points and, more importantly, see if they can actually back it up.
especially because they're going up against some pretty established players in the school safety space.
Right, it's a tough market.
Yeah.
So let's start with Samscloud's core pitch. What are they all about?
Well, the big thing they're pushing is this idea of proactive security, basically moving beyond just reacting to incidents after the fact.
Okay, so trying to stop things before they even happen.
Yeah, exactly. They're really leaning into using data to try and predict and ideally prevent incidents altogether.
Ambitious. But before we get into whether that's actually doable, let's back up a bit. What exactly is Samscloud offering? Their document mentions a whole bunch of features.
Right, they're really trying to be this like all-in-one solution, but I'd say one of their biggest selling points is this comprehensive security integration.
So what does that mean in plain English? What are they actually integrating?
It means their system is designed to work seamlessly with the school's existing security setup. We're talking security cameras, door access systems, you name it.
Okay, so they're all about playing nicely with the school's current tech. But why is that such a big deal in the school security world?
Well, think about it. Schools, especially older ones, often have a real hodgepodge of systems, stuff they've accumulated over the years from different vendors.
Yeah, I can see how that would be a nightmare to manage.
Exactly. And trying to get all those systems to talk to each other, to share data effectively, it's a huge headache. Samscloud is betting that schools will be drawn to a solution that promises to simplify all of that.
Makes sense. No one wants a bunch of tech that doesn't work together. So we've got integration. What else are they pushing?
Well, remember those predictive analytics I mentioned? That's a big one for them. Imagine a system that could analyze student behavior, even things like social media activity, to identify potential risks before something happens.
Hold on. They're analyzing social media. Isn't that, I don't know, kind of a privacy minefield, especially when we're talking about kids?
You said it, and the document, not surprisingly, kind of glosses over those potential downsides, something to definitely keep in mind.
Well, we will. So they're all about integration and this predict the future technology. Anything else?
They also hit on real-time incident reporting. Basically, if something does happen, the system is supposed to send out alerts instantly to the right people. Plus, they offer things like geofencing, so schools can set up virtual boundaries and get alerts if someone leaves a designated area.
Okay, trying to cover all the bases. But now for the real test. How do they actually measure up against the competition?
That's the million-dollar question.
And their document specifically calls out CrisisGo. So let's start there. What is CrisisGo known for in the school safety world?
CrisisGo is like the gold standard for emergency communication. They built their name on having these incredibly reliable, rock-solid systems for sending out mass alerts. When you need to get the word out fast during an emergency, they're the go-to.
Which, let's face it, is pretty crucial when it comes to school safety. But Samscloud seems to think they can compete in that arena.
Yeah, they're definitely not shying away from the challenge.
So how do they plan to go toe-to-toe with a giant like CrisisGo?
Well, they're not necessarily trying to beat them on speed, but they're emphasizing their integration advantage. See, according to the document, CrisisGo often requires a lot of extra work and expense to integrate with a school's existing systems. Samcloud is presenting themselves as the more plug-and-play option.
So less about being faster, more about being easier to use.
Exactly. And then there's the whole predictive analytics angle. Samscloud makes a point of highlighting CrisisGo's lack of focus on that front. It's almost like they're saying, yeah, CrisisGo is great at reacting to emergencies, but we're trying to stop them from happening in the first place.
All right, so they're going for the whole ounce of prevention approach.
Yeah.
Smart. But what about schools that already have systems in place? The document mentions Rave as another competitor, and I know they're pretty big in the education world. What's their deal?
Yeah, Rave is huge, and for a good reason. They've built a really strong reputation for customer support, which is huge in the education sector. Schools need to know that when they have a problem, or even just a question, they can get help.
Right, because if you're dealing with a critical system like this, reliable support is essential.
Absolutely, and that's something Samscloud, at least in this document, is a little vague about. They mention user-friendly interfaces and training modules, but
Which are important, but not quite the same as having a dedicated support team you can call on. So that's something to keep in mind as we go forward.
definitely.
All right, so Rave is known for their great support. What else do they have going for them?
Their panic button system is really popular. It gives teachers and staff a way to discreetly call for help, which can be invaluable in situations where, like, making a phone call could make things worse.
Okay, so they've got the emergency communication angle covered, and they're known for their support. But where do they fall short?
Well, that's where Samscloud sees an opening. The document acknowledges Rave's strengths in those areas, like you said, the communication and the support, but they suggest that Rave might not be as comprehensive when it comes to things like incident management and reporting.
So Rave gets the alert out, but Samscloud wants to be there for the whole process, documenting what happened, analyzing the data, trying to prevent it from happening again.
Yeah, exactly. They're really pushing that data-driven approach. But again, it makes you wonder about the data privacy side of things. If Samscloud is collecting all this information, how are they making sure it's being used responsibly, ethically?
Right, that's a big question, especially when we're talking about schools. Can't just brush those concerns under the rug.
Definitely not. They do highlight some other areas where they say Rave isn't as strong, like geofencing, for example. They're really emphasizing that ability to set up those virtual boundaries and get alerts if anyone steps outside of them.
Which, thinking about it, that could be useful for more than just knowing if a student leaves campus, right? What about during an evacuation? Could geofencing help ensure all the students were accounted for at a designated safe zone?
Absolutely, yeah. It could be a really powerful tool in these situations.
Okay, so Samscloud claims to be more comprehensive than Rave, especially when it comes to data and features like geofencing. Let's move on to another competitor they mention, Raptor. What's their specialty?
Raptor is really known for their visitor management system. It helps schools keep track of who's coming and going, which is obviously a big part of security. They also get high marks for having a user-friendly system, which seems to be a common theme with these solutions.
Makes sense. If the system's too complicated to use, people just won't use it. But even if Raptor's system is easy to use, what are its weaknesses, according to Samscloud?
Well, they suggest that Raptor might not be as strong when it comes to real-time incident reporting or integrating with more advanced surveillance technology.
So great at managing visitors, but maybe not as good at dealing with situations as they're unfolding.
That seems to be Samscloud's argument. They're really playing up their own real-time incident reporting and their ability to integrate with a wider range of systems, including, some of the more advanced surveillance stuff.
Yeah. Which, let's be honest, that's a bit of a mixed bag, right? I mean, on the one hand, you've got the potential for increased security, but on the other hand, you're wading into some pretty, ethically ambiguous territory with things like facial recognition.
Yeah, you're hitting on a really important point there. And it's not something the document really addresses. They're focused on, presenting Samscloud in the best possible light, which is understandable, but
it's our job to ask the tough questions.
Exactly. We have to think critically about the implications of this technology, especially in a school setting.
Okay, we've got one more competitor on the list. Centegix. How do they fit into all of this?
Centegix is interesting. They've kind of carved out this niche with their crisis alert system. It's a wearable device, usually for staff members, that lets them discreetly trigger an alert if there's an emergency.
So if a teacher feels unsafe or sees something going down, they don't have to try to make a phone call or find a computer to send an alert. They can just, hit a button on this device.
Exactly. And the document actually highlights how effective and simple that system is. It's designed for those moments when a fast response is absolutely critical.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I'm guessing Samscloud isn't content to let a competitor, any competitor, be seen as the leader in rapid response.
You'd be right about that. They actually address that head on in the document. They say, look, while Centegis' standalone alert system is great for what it does, our system offers that same kind of functionality, but within a much broader security ecosystem.
So it's almost like Centegix is a specialist, and Samscloud is aiming to be more of a general practitioner, offering a solution for just about everything.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And they're quick to point out that a more specialized system like Centegix might run into problems when you try to integrate it with all the other security stuff a school already has in place.
Which, as we've discussed, seems to be Samscloud's whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Making sure their system plays nicely with others.
Exactly. They're really trying to position themselves as the solution that schools can easily adopt without having to, rip and replace their entire existing setup.
Okay, so we've covered Samscloud's main competitors, or
Hmm.
at least the ones they chose to highlight, and I gotta say, they make a pretty compelling case for why they're the better option. But, and I bet you saw this coming, this is all coming from Samscloud themselves. It's their sales pitch, their highlight reel.
Exactly. It's important to remember that this document is designed to sell you on Sam's Cloud. It's not exactly an unbiased source.
So what are the things they're not telling us? What are the potential weaknesses that maybe got conveniently left out of this document?
Well, for one thing, they keep talking about being cost effective, but there are no actual numbers in here, no pricing information whatsoever.
Right, because cost-effective is a pretty relative term. What one school district considers affordable could be totally out of reach for another.
Exactly. And then going back to the data privacy issue, it's great that they talk about user friendliness, but what about transparency? Do schools, do parents even know what data Sam's Cloud is collecting, how it's being used, who has access to it? These are all crucial questions they don't really answer.
Yeah, those are important considerations, especially in a school setting where, student privacy is so important. Anything else we should be thinking about?
Well, they're really emphasizing all the integration capabilities of their system, which on paper sounds great, but what about when things go wrong? Because technology, even the most well-designed systems, can be glitchy. So what happens if there's a technical issue, a malfunction, whatever? What kind of support does Sam's Cloud offer when things inevitably go sideways?
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a shiny new system,
Hmm.
but the true test is how well it performs in the real world under pressure when things don't go as planned.
Exactly. And I think the final point, and maybe this is the most important one, is that while Sam's Cloud is clearly putting a lot of faith in technology, we can't lose sight of the human factor. Even the most sophisticated security system in the world is only as good as the people using it.
It all goes back to that idea we talked about. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Technology can be an incredibly powerful tool, but it's not a magic solution. Well said. And ultimately, that's the question I would leave you with. How do we strike that balance? How do we leverage the power of technology while also fostering a culture of awareness, communication, and frankly, just plain old common sense when it comes to school safety?
That's a big question, and honestly, it's something we're all grappling with, not just in schools, as technology plays a bigger and bigger role in all of our lives. So, yeah, lots to think about. Big thanks to you for walking us through all of this.
Happy to do it.
And to our listeners, thanks for sticking with us on this deep dive. Keep asking the tough questions, and we'll catch you next time.